then a little bit about the program and what requirements you have to stay on the program with Apex Health. But then after I go through that and a little bit of the GLP-1 medications, we'll start into our topic, which is understanding micronutrients. So the medical weight loss program you're on, Apex Health are fully subsidising the GLP-1 medications to veterans who are eligible for the program. You actually have to be plugged in with a lifestyle program to receive it, and that is either face-to-face dietitian consultations, or this is another avenue that you're able to do to get some support for your GLP-1 medications. So you can do it face-to-face with DVA, providing any veteran with a gold or a white card, 12 sessions with an allied health member each year, but one of those has to be face-to-face, and then they can be telehealth. So I know it is tricky because everybody's all over Australia. So this webinar series is the way you can still be engaged in the lifestyle program to support your weight loss journey. Get the best out of it. So our presentation overview will go through the GLP-1 medications, and then our topic is understanding the macronutrients. And our macronutrients, as a little spoiler, are carbohydrates, proteins, and fats. And then I'll give you a little bit of recommendations, and then you'll have an opportunity to ask any questions. So the medications, GLP-1 medications work, it's an injectable, you do it weekly, and you start low dose and then you can titrate up. And the medication works on your pancreas, so it increases your insulin sensitivity. So once you eat, your body will deal with the food quicker with the insulin. It will decrease, so it works on your liver, and it stops your body from making its own glucose and only use the glucose coming in through food intake. It works on the stomach, so it delays the emptying of your stomach, so the food stays in there a little bit longer and it travels through the gastrointestinal tract slower, more absorption of all those nutrients. And that also works on the brain, increasing the satiety, which is a fancy word for your satisfaction from meals. So you don't go looking for extra foods, and it cuts down the food noise. Do I need that? Do I want that? Or I have a craving. If you feel it, that food noise will go with the medication. Common side effects with all medications, but with this one, there are some ones that you'll find in your gastrointestinal, which are vomiting, nausea, diarrhea, constipation, and reflux, and then physiological symptoms such as associated with reduced intake being fatigue. But the good news is these common side effects that you'll feel will usually be, while unpleasant, only temporary. So a lot of the time, once you get adjusted to your dose of the GLP-1 medication, your body will start to lessen those symptoms and you'll be able to get the benefit of the medicine. Management strategies. So just to help you manage any of those symptoms that we were talking about, the unpleasant ones, it's just a good idea to have smaller meals more frequently. So getting used to that new appetite, giving yourself more opportunities through the day to get the nutrition you need, because it's still really important. It's counterintuitive as well, but if you have something in your stomach, nausea is usually better and kept at bay. So just making sure you've got that food before any nausea hits, or getting in early. Ensure that you take the 2 to 3 litres of water. That can help with constipation and definitely needed for good health. So just making sure if you get to 2, great, 3, perfect, amazing. Enjoy a wide range of plant-based foods in the diet, so getting lots of fibre in there to help with constipation, lots of nutrients in the plant-based foods. Limit the intake of any fatty foods, because that can, again, normally delay the travel of the food through the stomach. It can slow digestion, but if you already got that, it can cause a bit of reflux and be a bit uncomfortable if you've overeaten. So on that, just eating slowly and paying attention to the hunger signals and stopping when you're full. It's okay not to finish the food that you've put on your plate, and it just takes a little time just to get used to the new amount of food that you need. And then just stop when you're comfortably satisfied. That's the last one. But just a little note at the bottom there that 20% of individuals taking GLP-1 medications become malnourished within a year of taking them. So having the ongoing support of nutrition education and the webinars or one-on-one dietetics is really important to get the best out of the GLP-1 medications and not put you at risk of other issues with your health. Just a quick note to say there are some serious adverse side effects, and they're really important that you watch out for it. The first one, gastroparesis, is where the stomach and the gastrointestinal tract doesn't absorb the food, so you'll get a lot of pain with that. There can be vomiting and some unpleasant feelings. But if you're passing the food through quite quickly, up or out, and it's looking undigested, and there's lots of pain, it's really important to go to the GP. Pancreatitis is obviously the medication is working on the pancreas, and it can get a little bit inflamed, so there'll be a lot of pain there. Same thing, a bit nausea, vomiting, diarrhea can be associated with that, but need to check that out. Gallstones, you can be at risk anytime you go on a weight loss program. It digests the fat, so if there's not as much fat coming, there's not as much of the bile coming out of the gallbladder, so that can have turn into stones and then become inflamed, so you need to get that helped as soon as you feel that pain. It's a little bit higher up in the back of the stomach, abdomen. And then the last one is medullary thyroid cancer, and that is a bit of a swollen lump in the neck that is not painful or anything, but needs to be looked at quite quickly. Considerations for effective, safe weight loss. So making sure that you know this is a tool for you. It will not lose weight. You don't take the medication and then lose weight, but it does provide the right conditions to make your weight loss possible. So you can change the habits and make your weight loss as a result of increasing the healthy foods and exercise, and reducing high energy foods coming in the diet. So GLP-1s are not a short term. If you think about how long it took to put to get to the weight that you wanted to reduce, it didn't happen overnight, and definitely not within 6 months. So it's just making sure that you have a long-term goal, maybe a year and a half down the road. That's where you're looking at where you can maybe change your medication and go to a maintenance dose. But really having a long-term view of this and thinking about why it's important to you, because that's what's going to get you through making sure you're managing those symptoms and taking the long road to get to your goal weight. So it could be that you want to look after your joints, you want to live longer, you want to reduce your risk if you've got a family history of any chronic diseases, or you want to be with family friends. So it's important also, while you're there, just to have some non-weight indicators of improved health. So, the get up and go, getting out of bed, watching your clothing size. Sometimes your weight on the scales might not change, but there is many benefits to the weight loss that you're having. So expect a 5% body weight loss, but some clients do experience a lot more weight loss than that. So a good acronym is just muscle maintenance, making sure you're getting enough protein in your diet, and 2 strength training activities during the week. Energy balance, getting the energy balance in. So it doesn't necessarily make less food going in, but the energy in the food. So making nice nutritious choices, lots of veggies and fruit, and in healthy choices, avoiding the side effects and managing those with those strategies that we spoke about earlier, and making sure you're getting those 2 liters of liquid in, mainly water. Water's fantastic, but you can have other things that include in that water intake, liquid intake. All right, now that we've finished that, let's get on to our topic. So it's understanding macronutrients for sustainable weight loss. So macronutrients are all unique in their design and very important for their own purpose. So it's really important to get a few of each get the right amounts of each of the macronutrients, which are protein, carbohydrates, and fats. Each food is put into their category, but it's not completely made out of that one thing. For an example, you've got in the pictures here is what I'm talking about. The oil, if you've got an oil, it is 100% fat. So that's easy, that's a fat. However, you've got in the middle there, you've got your oily fish, and that's got a great amount of oils in it and fats, but it's also really highly protein and a really good source of protein. So just thinking that all foods aren't just one thing. Grain foods have a great amount of carbohydrates, but also got a lot of protein in them as well. yeah, if you think about your steak, you've got a lot of protein, the tendons are some carbohydrates, and there's fat in there as well. So just thinking about what is in there. But if you're looking at things you get told on the internet tells you to avoid carbohydrates because they'll make you gain weight. If you come up with a little idea, you can Google and get down a rabbit hole where they will tell you a lot of the time that you do need to avoid those carbohydrates and why it's a really good idea just to have proteins and fats in your diet. But we'll talk a little bit we'll talk through them all and find out why it's really important to have that part of the carbohydrates as part of the diet. Do I need to eat low fat to lose weight? Now, this is something that came about in the 80s, and that's decades and decades where we've been using low fat and complex carbohydrates, but it has not made the difference that we had hoped. So let's have a look at the importance of fats. And plant-based diets are healthy, but do I need to know if I have enough protein, and how do I know if I get enough? And I'll be answering that question as well. So carbohydrates is the first one. So fuel for everyday life and why they matter. Now, carbohydrates, it represents the largest macronutrient that you need. So in the diet, you need about 45 to 65% of what you're eating of carbohydrates. So this is, if you think, I've got a picture of a car and petrol, and it's your petrol for the car. So it's our petrol or our fuel for our body, and we need it to do all of our daily activities. If we don't have it, we'll start to get tired and foggy. So we need it to grow, we need it to sleep, to blink, pretty much anything that you think of that you're doing, me talking, moving my arms, it all needs energy, and that's from a carbohydrate. So when we think, and keeping on the car analogy, the types of fuels that we use can affect our performance. So if you've got a really high premium engine, you want to put premium fuel in there, you're going to get a good result. Even if you have a regular car and you put the premium fuel in, it's great. It's going to flush everything out. It's going to make it go really fast. So the types of fuels that you put in your body do make a bit of a difference. Carbohydrates are featured across all the different food groups. So all the core food groups within the Australian Guide to Healthy Eating have some form of carbohydrate in there. So dairy, you've got your milk and your yogurt, your grains and cereals are pretty much all carbohydrates. You've got your fruits, all full of nice carbohydrate. And then your veggies, you've got your legumes, your potatoes and your corn in there. And meat and meat alternatives obviously is your legumes again. So lots of plant-based foods, obviously some dairy as well, are good sources of carbohydrates. And not to forget, one of the major benefits of having a really plant-based diet is the benefits of fiber. And I've just wanted to put a little note in there just to highlight that your plant foods and your grain foods are where that fiber comes from, and it's great for bowel health and keeping you regular, managing your constipation. It reduces your cholesterol nice and naturally, reduces risk of bowel cancer, and it also keeps you full for longer. So I just wanted to point that out before we move on. And this is just a quick flashback to last week, just saying carbohydrates are featuring in all of the core 5 food groups within the Australian Guide to Healthy Eating. So you'll find them in each of those 5 sectors of the circle. So carbohydrates, what we do have a nice way to put them into groups, and they're a complex carbohydrate, which you might have heard of, or a simple carbohydrates. So when we think of complex carbohydrates and simple carbohydrates, all carbohydrates, when they are digested, turn into the smallest molecule which is used for fuel, and that is sugar. So every carbohydrate that goes down into us, it's digested into the simplest form of sugar. So you've got your lactose sugar with your dairy, or your fructose with your fruit, or normal glucose and sucrose in your complex carbohydrates. But what we want to look at is how quickly it gets digested. So when you're looking at this picture here, you've got simple carbs and complex carbs. So when you're looking at your simple carbs, they've taken out a lot of the fiber or the nuts and seeds and protein, and not the protein, sorry, the grain and the bran, and they're left with just a really simple fiber. It goes in, gets digested really quickly, and it goes right into the bloodstream straight away. So that is a simple carbohydrate. They've taken off a fair bit of the nutrition as well. When you're looking at a complex carbohydrate, you're looking at a grainy bread, things that are looking more like in their natural form, wholemeal, whole grain pastas, your fruits, vegetables, and grainy nuts and seeds and breads and things like that. So they've got a lot to do when they're digesting that type of food. The body needs to digest, it stays in the stomach a little longer, and as it gets absorbed, the sugar goes into the bloodstream a little bit slower. So that's complex versus simple. And just another note on that is the glycemic index, or the GI rating of the food. So this is simple sugars get digested very quickly. You've got a little graph here that tells you the blood glucose levels and the time it takes. So if you have something really simple, you get a really quick rush of energy, but then of course you've got a really quick downward crash as well. So sugar high and then a bit of a crash. Whereas your low glycemic food, you can see it's the second curve. It goes in nice and slowly and it doesn't go up as high, but it's sustained for a little bit longer and you don't have that crash and you're ready to eat again in 2 hours. So a snack or a meal. The GI rating's a way to rank your carbohydrate food, and it's just telling you how quickly or slowly the glucose or sugar enters the bloodstream. So the lower GI food, more slower digesting, a bit more to it, and it doesn't give you the ups and downs. So that's carbohydrates. So what we'll move on to is our protein, and that's for health, strength, and weight loss. So protein is our building blocks, and I've got a nice stack of building blocks there. So protein actually occurs in every living thing, all living things, and it has a structural purpose and also a functional purpose. So we've got bones and our skin and our nails and our hair all made out of proteins. And the functional is the movement and the hormones and the immunity. That's all made out of protein as well. So really important things within the body. Protein, when it's digested, it goes down to the stomach and there's protein digesting enzymes. And it's digested into its smallest form, which is a combination of different amino acids. So something goes in, it goes down into the amino acids, and then it builds back up into, say, hair or nails or the immunity cells or something like that. So I thought interesting, a note, we are completely proteins, but our stomach is protected from these digestive enzymes. So we're essentially made up of protein and we do not want to be digested. I just thought that was kind of interesting. However, I'll keep going. The amino acids are building blocks. So our body is continually remodeling itself. So it breaks down the proteins and then it makes them up again. And it's a process called protein turnover. So our skin cells shed off and we make them again. Same with our kidneys and our liver. We have to we turn over all our proteins and we build our nails and things like that. So it is important to get the amount of protein or amino acids to do this each day, because we don't have a store of amino acids, well, small store, but not very big. So it needs to come in daily, and we need to do that for our growth, particularly when we're young kids. We do it for our immunity to fight off any viruses or bacteria that enter, and we need to get rid of it. Our first line of defense is our immunity. Our hormones, so those things that are chemical messages within our body. It tells us whether we're happy, it's a range of emotions. It tells us whether we're hungry and full. It also can tell us when to go to sleep. There's lots of things that happen with our hormones. And lastly, and the last point here, it is converted into fuel for the body, but this isn't its normal role. It's only converted into fuel in the absence of carbohydrates. So what we want to do is we want to give ourselves enough carbohydrates that we don't need to use it, because it's a very expensive process to turn your proteins into carbohydrates. And we need to use the proteins for rebuilding and remodeling. So protein should take up, so you had your carbohydrates at 45 to 65% of your diet, 15 to 25% of your total diet should be protein. So that doesn't sound like a lot compared to our carbohydrates. So thinking about most of the food being carbohydrate and your protein coming in for that building. So if you have too much, so too much is over that 25%, you might not leave enough room for other important macronutrients. And whatever you eat in excess, if we don't need it, we can convert it into fat and we store it. So there's no use in taking on more than we need. We just need enough. But if not enough, and we don't do that remodeling and building of essential proteins, the immunity and hormones might not get made. So the non-essential things stop happening. And signs that you're not getting enough could be the wasting of blood, physical function, a build-up of fluids. So the people that are starving, sometimes they have a bit of a big tummy, and that could be just fluid buildup, and they're really slim underneath. You can see that with young children if they've not got enough to eat. Anemia is another sign, and that's iron deficiency and stunted growth in children. So it's really important for young children to get enough protein, and that's for brain development. They're building their brain. And the older population, it's really important for heart muscles. So the important thing to look at for protein is the quality of the protein. So there's a couple of ways that we look at it, and it can be how many amino acids are in them. So you've got 20 amino acids. So you've got essential ones that your body can make, or essential ones that you need to give your body because we can't make it, and then a non-essential ones that we can make as well. And then you've got a complete protein that has the 20 amino acids within it, or a non-complete protein that doesn't have them. So I won't go through what the names are or anything like that, but it's just to let you know that complete proteins have all 20 and incomplete ones don't. And the incomplete ones are more of your vegetable-based ones. So legumes and grains usually have less. So you've got your nuts, seeds and grains over the right-hand side, and then the meat products are more complete. You can put two things together. So sometimes they have corn and beans together to complete the protein, but otherwise, you get enough protein in other things. So it doesn't really matter. So what I'm just going to do here is how much do we need of protein per day? So for the general population, it's 0.75 to 1 gram of protein per kilogram of body weight. So if you want to work it out, you can use that. But while on medical weight loss program, it's important to maintain muscle mass, and they have recommended a 1.2 to 1.5 grams of protein per kilo of ideal body weight. And ideal body weight is worked out using the BMI scale. And I have put a picture. I'm not going to go too far into it. The BMI is, it says at the bottom of the chart here, BMI equals weight divided by your height in meters squared, which means times by your height by meters and times again by it. But I've worked it out, so you don't have to worry about working it out. And I've done just a chart of the main, of the height. So you can just find your height, and then your ideal weight will be beside it, and you've got your target in the first column. So the minimum you need is, if you're 160 centimeters, the minimum you'll need is 77 grams, and the maximum you'd need is 96 grams. So they're the lower and upper limits of your protein requirements. While on GLP-1 medications, I've done all the calculations for you. You just have to find your height and then go across to find the bottom and the top targets for your protein. But I just thought, in case anyone was interested, I did put the calculations in there if anyone wanted to do them. So if you want to quickly have a look at your height and grab your bottom and your top. Am I getting enough? There's little, and I put a little link to a resource for you that you can find online that can tell you how much protein is within the foods that you're eating. So a lot of foods that are quite common, I have pulled out and put into the table here. So a couple of things like lean meat, 100 grams, you've got 30 grams of protein within there. So it's not 100 grams, it's only 13 grams of protein because there's other things in there. Same as the fish, the tofu, cooked eggs. These are things that you will think protein. You've got your raw nuts, yogurt, hard cheese, milk, bread, cereals, rice, pasta, chia seeds. And then I put down peanut butter. Whey protein is something that you can add to milk products. If you need to bump up the protein intake, you can use a whey powder to put into, say, fortify your milk or something like that, or put it in a soup and up the protein of it. So getting enough, this is just a quick day of eating for something that I might eat. So I put it together, 2 Wheat Bix with milk, and I've added it all up. You've got your yogurt. I probably should have put how much was beside it. So I think your Wheat Bix and your milk could be about, I think it's 15-ish. Your yogurt, again, is about 10. Your sandwich, I'd have to go back. You got 12 maybe, or 15, something like that. And then your natural nuts up to 6 grams, and then a nice big meal with a 200-gram fillet of fish, mashed potato and peas and carrots. And that's a total of 92. So it's just looking at what you're getting. That would meet the bottom. And then, other things definitely have a bit of protein in them. So if you're adding your fruit in, they're going to have a little bit of protein in there. So just making sure you're getting the minimum, and you can always add little bits of protein as you go. All right. If there's any questions on that, please do tell me. I hope I didn't go through that too quickly. And then the fats. So fats, it's the good, the bad, and why are they so essential? So fats there are many different types of fats in the diet, and they do provide flavor to the food, and they actually increase the absorption of some vitamins and minerals. So if you've got a salad and you put a nice balsamic and oil vinegar on it, it can absorb that nutrition a little bit easier into the stomach. So certain types of fat are an essential part of a healthy diet. So did you know that oils and fats are actually 20 to 35% of what your dietary intake should be? Now that might sound like a lot because it's actually bigger than your protein. However, it's more energy dense. So it's it's got more kilojoules than gram for gram of protein or carbohydrates. So thinking of that, you need a little bit less than what you do of the carbs and proteins, because it's twice as energy dense as what carb proteins are. So fats are essential in the diet, and they are part of your skin, nails, and hair. If you're having lovely unsaturated fats and polyunsaturated fats, you'll have nice shining skin and nails. It provides a bit of insulation, so not only protection, so around your midsection, particularly if you go hit your side on a bench or something like that, you don't want to damage your kidney or hurt something internally. So it's got a bit of protection there to protect your internal organs, but it's also insulation against the cold, keeps you warm, and it's an excellent storage of energy. So there. Now I'm going to go into the categories for the fats as well. You've got your saturated fats and your unsaturated fats. So an easy way to kind of keep those in your mind, and I've got some structures down the bottom, like chemical structures, and they're for anyone who's interested in those, but I'll tell you why I put them in a minute. But saturated fats are really usually solid at room temperature. So you can see your butter there, and ghee and lard. If it's at room temperature, it's solid. And an unsaturated fat it's liquid usually at room temperature. Now, the reason why I put the chemical structures, which is very sciencey, but you can see where the saturated fat is nice and straight. It's got all the equal bonds. You can layer it on top of layer, and that makes it nice and solid. And I just thought that was a nice way to think of it. And then your polyunsaturated, this is a polyunsaturated. So means it's got a couple of double bonds. So it's actually fluid, and you can't really stack it. So mainly your saturated fats come from your animals, but there are some exceptions to that rule. Palm oil and coconut oil are saturated fats. And then on the other side, pure vegetable oils from a certain source, so like olive oil or canola oil or something like that, unsaturated. But a meat, so your oily fish, has a beautiful unsaturated fat within it. So it's an animal product. But yeah, that's the way you can think of it, animals versus plant-based. So saturated fat you'll find in full-fat dairy products, so whole milk, cream, butter, cheese. Meat products, so all your meats, making sure that you cut the visible fat off will reduce it. The saturated fat going in the diet, and removing skin off chicken. The coconut and palm oil, like I mentioned, and the baked and processed goods like cake, biscuits, pastries, and fast food always have a component of like the saturated fats in there. However, they are trying to increase the shelf life of them, and there's sometimes can contain the trans fats, which is a modified saturated fat to increase the shelf life, and that's type of fat for you. And I'll go into why in a couple of slides. The unsaturated fats are two types. So you've got your mono unsaturated fats and your polyunsaturated fats. So your monos are from olive oil, canola oil, peanuts, peanut butter and peanut oil, almonds, cashews, hazelnuts, pistachios, pecans, and avocados. They're sort of your monounsaturated. And then you've got your polyunsaturated. So these are omegas, omega-3 fatty acids, and these guys protect against your heart disease, stroke, and reduce inflammation. And they're your food sources there. And then you've got your omega-6 fatty acids. So they work to reduce incidence of heart disease when eaten in the place of saturated fats. So they're your places where you'll find them, and you can see lots of plant-based origins. You can have omega-3 enriched eggs there though, and your fish and seafood. So your fish and seafood, your omega-3s are I'll just go into that. You've got your longer chain fatty acids that are omega-3s, and they're essential for brain and eye and skin health. So they're found in your oily fish, which are your mackerel, herring, tuna, and other seafood. But they can be made within the body, but not only in small amounts. So it's ideal. That's where our recommendation of having 2 fish meals per week comes from. And you can get your DHA, which is a long chain essential fatty acid from the oily fish, and the EPA, which is down the bottom. I'm not going to say it because I'll say it wrong, but they're EPA and DHA, and they're essential for, really good for heart health and reducing inflammation and supporting health. So when you're thinking of fat and cholesterol, cholesterol can be something that you're told on your blood test that can be high. If you're having a lot of unsaturated fats, that's going to increase your HDL or your high density lipoprotein. If you're having a lot of the saturated fats, and they'll lead to LDL or low density lipoprotein. So if you're thinking of them, I love this picture because it's got the LDL just dumping things within your artery there, and that's what they do. They're pretty lousy or lazy. They sit around in your arteries and they can form plaques, and that can increase the pressure within. So there's less space, there's more pressure with your blood. And also if they do sit there and they fleck off, they can get caught in the smaller arteries, so the brain or heart, and that's heart attack or stroke. So that saturated fat can lead to higher levels of the LDL or low density lipoprotein, and just hang around in the blood vessels. Your HDL come from your unsaturated fats, and they're a bit of a higher density or heavier protein, bigger, and that is, you can see it's just got wings there. It's a helpful or happy lipoprotein. So it kind of goes around and is a vacuum to all those ones that are like just hanging around there. So that's why it's really important to have the unsaturated poly and monounsaturated fats in the diet. So you've got your little characters to remind you. One's happy and healthy and helpful, and the other one's a bit lousy and lazy and not very good to have around. And I like the vacuum cleaner, so I put him in there as well, just to jog your memory. So the good, the bad and the ugly, your fats, just making sure that you've got a nice little picture to show you the poly and monounsaturated sources, and that they're really helpful for the blood lipids or the blood cholesterols, and the sources of your saturated fat, and then again your trans fats that are also probably the ugly. All right, so just touching on what we did last week, a balanced plate. So just putting a different lens on this slide that we had last week, and that's just to get all the nice macronutrients within the plate. So you've got your protein in there, you've got your starch or your fuel, and then you've got your filling vegetables there, and it's just trying to make it nice and filling and a nice appetizing plate. And you can adjust the macronutrients as you go to make it more filling. Last slide here, practical tips to take away include all the macronutrients in the diet. They are all really important and need to be had in the amounts that they are recommended. So larger amounts of carbohydrates, good amount of protein, and make sure you maintain that muscle while losing weight, and fats are really important as well. Not something to shy away from, definitely important in the diet. So focus on the quality of the macronutrients that you're getting, so complex carbohydrates, vegetable sources of the oils and unsaturated forms, and good quality proteins. and that means, yeah, within the core food groups. And then if you've got favorite meals that aren't so balanced, it's just making a little bit of an addition to your meal to make it nice and balanced. So adding nuts and seeds to cereal is one of my favorites. It gives me nice feeling from breakfast and adds to my protein, even though there is protein in cereal and milk. Legumes to your favorite vegetable soup and a crusty roll, or, you know, if you've just got a meat and just free vegetable meal, you can add some crusty roll or rice or pasta to that dish to make it nice and balanced. And that is it for today. Thank you so much. Any questions at all coming through on the text line, on the chat? Just wait and they'll come through for me. Oh, okay. Okay. Okay, it looks like there's no questions today. So thanks so much, everyone, for coming. Any further support you can get from please reach out to advice@apex.au, and we can hook you up with some dietitians, exercise physiologists, physiotherapists, psychologists, and doctors one-on-one. So any further questions that do come, let me know. And yeah, have a great week. We'll see you in a couple of weeks for a new topic. And please, if you're interested, join our community, our Facebook community. We'd love to hear from you and share your story. And also, if you have any topics that you're interested in that I can make a webinar about, let us know. All right. Thanks, everybody. Take care.